a Texan shave, steel in hand, traditional wet, shaving smooth and grand.
Howdy, welcome back to the Texan Shaves. Oh, hope that's not too echoey. Let me see if this helps. I'll open the door. Yeah, I think that's a little better. Whew, that echo was kind of crazy. Anyway, travel shave. Let's just get right into it. Today I'm using KITUWAH from First Line Shaves. This is in the Imperial Wagyu base. Love that stuff. I do have the splash. And I'm using the Tatara Masamune, right? Is that the name? I always get their names mixed up. Miramasa, the adjustable stainless steel. And I do have a first use Tatara blade in there. I don't know why I get their names. The only one I don't get mixed up is the Amakuni, which I did bring that as well, but using the adjustable with a, like I said, first use Tatara. And I've got my hammer and chisel brush, which y'all have seen photos. I have two of these. I really like this brush handle. I'm gonna possibly pick up a few more. So let's get this going. Just a shave, nothing crazy going on, just a shave and chat today. Let's get the brush wet and get the lather going. So the scent notes, if I can read this with my glasses off, is blood orange, raspberry, saffron, black and pink pepper, thyme, and spices. Middle notes of orange blossom, lavender, jasmine, olibanum. Base notes of leather, sandalwood, suede, and benzoin. Hope you could hear that over the water. Sorry about that. And I have been waiting to get this one for a while. The splash was out. I was waiting for the splash to get in stock, and finally came back in stock, and it came out in the Imperial Wagyu base, so why not? So glad to finally get it. That should be plenty. Probably more than enough. So I am in downtown Birmingham, Alabama, staying at the historical Tutwiler Hotel. It's not the original. The original was torn down, and then this one was built and named after it. It's still an old hotel. Can't remember the dates, but look it up. It had a pretty interesting history. Sweat the face. So I'm in town for a convention. It's kind of the granddaddy of police conventions, called Police Fleet Expo. Definitely need more water. I definitely loaded this brush too heavy. Get some of that out of there. I am always loading heavy, but I'm not afraid to use up soap either. I scoop heavy, I load heavy. I talk about it every video for some reason. I don't know why. You should all just expect it from me by now. I'm not afraid to use soap. I have so much of it. Heck, I brought 3 tubs and a tube and a stick with me on this trip. I actually brought 2 dot bags for the first time. One just for soaps and splashes, and the other one for the rest of my toiletries. Kind of crazy, right? Let's get some more water. Man, this smells good. So I actually drove in on, what's today? Today Tuesday? I drove in on Sunday. Well, I left on Saturday morning. The reason I left early, I think I mentioned this, I was driving an EV vehicle, a 2025 GMC Sierra Denali EV. And I've never taken an EV on a long road trip. And I remember I mentioned this in the last video because some people were commenting about it. I've got this set on a 3.5, I believe. If you're not familiar, the Tatara goes up to 5. And I just wasn't sure what to expect on a long trip with an EV. Especially one that's brand new. This is first year for this one. So it wasn't 100% when I left town. It was at 63 or so, 68, 63%. And the closest, not the closest, there were some in town, but I wanted to go ahead and get on the road. And I know Buc-ee's has superchargers, Tesla superchargers. This is a GM, but you can get an adapter, which I did. I bought an adapter to use the Tesla superchargers. So I got there, I was at about 58%. It took me about an hour and a half to charge. It stopped at 99 for some reason. And that was in Madisonville. So I took off down the road and I made it to West Monroe, Louisiana. Now these vehicles have range, not, and it tells you how many miles you can have on the range, but it's not a set in stone because it really depends on how much energy you're using, and that can change throughout your drive. So that range can fluctuate. So I knew I was going to get to where it said I had 100 miles left. I didn't want to push it further than that because I wanted enough space and time, enough range to be able to find a charger. So I was at about 100 miles near West Monroe, and I found a charger at a Pilot, and it was a GM Energy charger. It took me an hour and a half at that Tesla supercharger in Madisonville. It only took me 55 minutes from 32%, where the Tesla supercharger I was at 58. I was at 32% in West Monroe, and it only took me 55 minutes to get to 100%. So I'm curious if compatibility is part of that. But I also think available energy is a part of it as well, because at Buc-ee's there were about 20 other vehicles charging. They had like 30 of these chargers. And so, there's available energy. There's only so much energy they can supply to those chargers. And there were so many people using it, whereas at the Pilot gas station, no one was there. I was the only one. So I think that was part of it as well, why I was able to charge so fast there. Let's get wet for the face wet for the second pass. But it was definitely an interesting experience. So I stayed the night in Jackson, Mississippi. Shit, dropped my brush. I'll have to clean that up. And got up the next morning. Next town over was a town called Meridian, where I picked up probably the worst cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. It literally tasted like dirty dishwater. It was bad. Very disappointing. But I did make it into Birmingham at a decent time on Sunday. And the thing about the show, I haven't charged since then because fire code at these things, when you bring vehicles into convention centers, fire code is You have to have no more than a quarter tank of gas in an internal combustion engine. And on EVs, you have to have 30% or less on the battery. So when I got into town, I was at like 36, and while I was waiting in line to pull the vehicle in today to park it into our booth, it hit 30. I was at 32 when I was waiting in line, and then 2% disappeared while I was in line, so timed it out perfectly. So I've driven plenty of EVs just because of the nature of my business around town and stuff like that. But that's the first time I've taken a trip and had to plan things out. It was fairly stressful. Just trying to make sure you don't get yourself stranded somewhere. But it panned out all right. I'll tell you what, this vehicle though, some crazy features, and there's some things I'm shocked it doesn't have, such as it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. All the features that it not only has, and it doesn't have either of those things. It's got built-in Alexa and Google, but the Google wasn't working. Like as soon as I pulled out of Madisonville, the Google stopped, and it hasn't worked since. So I had to use maps on my phone. And even if you plug your phone in via a USB cable, it doesn't mirror onto the big giant screen on the console like it does in my truck. But that's because it doesn't have the mirror function or Android Auto for whatever reason, or Apple CarPlay, which doesn't make sense. In a 2025 vehicle that's all super technology. I didn't get it, and I'm going to be talking to the GM guys about it at the show tomorrow. Because GM is here, of course. They're always at these things, GM and Ford. All right. Oh. Man, I really like this suit. All right. Final pass. This is so unique. I don't think I've smelled anything quite like this. It is really nice. So speaking of features on this truck, and I guess just a lot of EVs in general, so this truck has all the usual things you'd find in a lot of modern vehicles that are pretty loaded, such as adaptive cruise control and all that stuff. But this thing, being an EV, it's got one pedal operation where you just use the gas pedal only. You never use the brake pedal. And how it works is whenever you let off the gas pedal, it starts to brake. And the more you let off, the heavier it brakes. It's pretty unique. It took a little bit to get used to. Once you do, it's actually quite intuitive and works very, very well. I mean, you can still use the brake if you need to stop even quicker, but it works very well. I was pretty surprised. And instead of auto drive with GM, it's called Super Cruise. And boy, did I utilize that on the interstate. It is very weird and a little bit frightening, because what I didn't understand that Super Cruise did until it happened was lane changes on its own without prompting from the driver. So I was in Super Cruise, hands-free. You have to keep facing forward. There's a little camera on top of the steering wheel column that watches you. If you look away too long, it starts beeping, the light on the steering wheel flashes, and you have to grab it. And if you don't grab it, it locks you out of using Super Cruise ever again until you restart the car, the vehicle. But I was just cruising down, and with the adaptive cruise, I had my cruise set at about 80. There's a car in front of me in the right-hand lane that was going a bit slower. And so the adaptive cruise slows you down and matches with whatever gap you have between the vehicles. You can set it to 3 levels of what kind of gap you want between vehicles. And when you're back there for a little bit, what it does is it puts on the blinker. I'm like, why'd the blinker come on? Then it starts changing the lane. It has a little, it shows on the dash, a little scanner checking the whichever side whatever side lane it's going to, and then it changes lanes. And I was just like, I freaked out. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Scared the you-know-what out of me. I was not expecting that. And now you can trigger a lane change just by tapping the blinker, and it'll do a lane change on its own. But this was on its own thinking. And so it did that, it passed the car, and then it got back over in the right-hand lane to stay out of the passing lane. Very, very crazy. And not only will it do that to keep you at the speed you want, if someone's up behind you on your butt, and even though you're going fairly fast, possibly even over the speed limit, and someone's up behind you, it's going to change lanes to let them pass. It was crazy. So like, it knows when someone wants to get past you, and it'll put the blinker on, get over, and let them pass. It was really weird, really wild. Felt so futuristic. I felt like I was in the Jetsons world, except I still don't have my flying car I was promised when I was a kid. But a good portion of this drive, I was by myself, and yet I was a passenger a good portion of the way. I noticed some of you, this isn't an oh wow experience or anything, but some of the things that this vehicle did, I did not know that it could do. And so that's one reason why it was an oh wow experience for me. I was just discovering this as I was driving, thinking there was a ghost in the machine or something. Overall, its estimated range on a full charge is 460 miles. I doubt you'll ever get that. That would have to be nothing on, no AC, nothing, and not even charging your phone in the vehicle, and be someone about half my weight, and nothing in the truck bed. You might get that. I did, however, get a little over 300. I got about 325, 330 miles. And it said I still had a range of 100 left, so that wasn't bad. I was impressed. I was thinking I was going to get like somewhere around 250, 270. So I got a lot further on a full charge than I thought, with having that 100-mile range buffer that probably isn't truly 100 miles. So overall, I thought that was a success, other than you have that hour downtime to recharge, other than 15 minutes to use the restroom and gas up your car as normal. So yeah, give or take, I guess, but it was an interesting drive. Let me get rinsed, we'll get the splash and my final thoughts. Be right back. All right. Man, I'm really liking that set. So Police Fleet Expo, or PFE as we call it, is like the granddaddy of police fleet shows. Everyone's here, from the automakers to all the equipment vendors and upfitters such as ourselves. It's the show of shows. It travels around the country. This year it happens to be in Birmingham, Alabama. I believe last year it was in, where was it last year? I don't remember. Oh, it was in Fort Worth last year. It was easy for us to get to. Then there's another one that's a huge show. It's an international show where we get law enforcement from all across the world, including Dubai. It's called IACP. is that one. And that one was in Boston last year, which we were gonna go, but we didn't. I'm sure we'll try to make it this year. All right, let's get the splash on. Yeah, that was a good shave. Ooh, it's really sweet. Not overly, not sickeningly, but it's a sweeter scent. Definitely got that woody, ambery. Man, there's something else. I guess it's the spices that are in there, but man, it is so unique, but so good, so well done. I really love this fragrance. I'll be honest with you, this is my first time using KITUWAH. I brought it with me for its first use, and I am so glad I did. This is so good. That is great. All right, guys. Again, it was just a quick shave in the middle of the afternoon. This is Tuesday. Tomorrow's the first day of the show. Today was move-in. We got the vehicle in, and we got to set up the booth still. But maybe I'll post some pictures up on my Instagram or something once I get the booth together and show you a little bit how big this show is. I'll go around, maybe do a little video or something. But find your peace in what and where you can. Let me know down below if you're interested in that. We'll see you next time on Texas.